Hi, I'm Justin Lathrop, and I'm here with Bryan Jarrett, pastor of North Place Church in Saxe, Texas, and we're here to talk a little bit about his book, Extravagant, that is releasing at General Council, and we want to just talk with you a little bit today, just about a little bit about your story and how, and we had a great time talking about Extravagant at the Influence Conference, and man, there was thousands of people in the room that were just so moved by what you were sharing. So the people that might have missed that, I want to talk to them a little bit about what this book came out of. Talk about your heart and the story of your church and where this came from.
I was on the 38th day of a 40-day fast. I was actually pastoring in Arkansas at the time and was really in a leadership crisis. I didn't know what to do, and so I fasted and prayed and had a very Book of Acts moment in the remote cabin I was in. A truck driver coming through the area was a believer and had been praying that morning. Drove down the road, just felt led to go down there. He barged into the cabin and said, "I'm looking for a man of God. Who are you?"
Wow.
And he gives me this prophetic word, kind of everything I had asked for the previous 38 days of that fast. This truck driver named Dale, and I tell more details of the story in the book, but that's kind of where the language of extravagance came into my vocabulary, because out of all the things Dale said, he said, for the rest of your life, you're supposed to communicate with God like Solomon. Mm-hmm. So when Dale left that day, I just started scouring the Bible, and Solomon, the first obvious thing he did was pray for wisdom, so I did that. But it was a few years later that I started continuing to look at Solomon in the book of Ecclesiastes and other places that he had written, but specifically when he was coronated king. It was custom that he offer one bull, as a heart of gratitude and worship, but he offered 1,000, and the thing that happened right after that extravagant offering was God said, "Ask me anything you want and I'll give it to you." And God's just not into offering blank checks to just anybody. Right. And so I thought, is there more to this? Are other people offered this? And I found out throughout Scripture, God initiates His love. I mean, He's the initiator of extravagance. He's extravagant by nature. And when we perceive it, when we're aware of it, there's a moment when our heart and our spirit is aware of it. And just like Paul, in light of the mercies of God, Romans 12:1, it's only logical to offer your whole self as a living sacrifice. Paul got it. That was extravagance for Paul. And I've only pastored 2 congregations, but what I've learned living in community, God never led me to those churches for what I was going to teach them. The community of faith taught me.
Wow.
And I have watched, as a leader, God lead me into some pretty radical acts of obedience and some trust and surrender that, I'm just beginning the journey, but learning what it really looks like to be surrendered. And it has helped me be a better leader, but it has helped our congregation be better disciples. And so, we're going through it again. Now that the book is released, it was written with small groups in mind. For some Sunday school classes in our small groups. So this fall, our congregation, even though they've heard and lived it, they've lived the story, we're going to go back through it, because exegeting the story, the hermeneutic of history, taking the exposition of Scripture and applying it to our lives, that I really believe that's what New Testament discipleship is.
So you'll do a sermon series. How long is the series going to be for the church?
About 6 weeks.
6 weeks. The church will get the book Extravagant. Is a sermon series titled Extravagant?
Yes.
So, and they're going to go through it. Is it a sermon and then a small group follow-up with that each week?
We're actually using our congregation this fall to be the pilot project for the small group curriculum. And some of the same editorial team that worked on my book is helping us with the curriculum for the small groups, and it'll be a sermon-based small group where I will be preaching the sermons on Sunday, and then we will be having a leader's guide and a participant's guide and a DVD for each week. That's kind of a 10 to 12 minute starter. And we're in the process of putting that together. We'll launch that in September.
So 1 month?
We'll be taking the journey as a congregation, and hopefully, if we do it well enough, we'll be able to take that and add it as an extra resource to the book. Because my heart was, I want this in the hand of the guy working at the factory.
Right. Right.
Now, I really wanted to inspire a pastor to go to another level.
The pastor's going to read it and feel and have their walk with Christ challenged and
exactly.
grow. But the goal is for them to take that and give that to their church.
I want a believer to read this. I don't care what their vocational title is, and realize, man, he deserves more.
Yep.
In view of his mercy, if I can ever grasp the depth of his grace bestowed upon me, I've just not given him back what he deserves. And I believe it was Lehman that wrote the song, "Is Your All on the Altar of Sacrifice Laid?"
Yep.
And that was one generation's way of challenging us to extravagance. Yep. And I tried to write the book in a timeless way. I love Tozer. I love Andrew Murray. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to read in that fashion. Yeah. So 50 years from now, it may not be the hippest thing in the shelf today, but I wanted somebody to pick up 50 years, just like you can pick up Pursuit of God today, and it'll wreck you, And I hope, Extravagant does that for people.
So at the end of the 6 weeks, what is your hope for the congregation? You're going to do with your congregation. What's your hope? What's the outcome of that 6 weeks?
We're strategically placing this resource in just prior to launching another capital campaign.
Gotcha.
We own a dream as a congregation that is a God-given, and we're trying to move one step at a time. And in order to get where we're going, God is going to have to extravagantly provide resources in people's hands so they can be conduits of those resources. And some of those resources are already there, but we're not at an extravagant enough level to let go of them.
Right.
Extravagance is defined as unrestrained excess, and as I state in the book, God has asked some pretty extravagant things of Haley and I, and we've done our best to be obedient and model that. And I've watched it in this congregation I pastor. I've shared this message in churches prior to building campaigns or missions conventions. I've watched the heart of man be unleashed and do things with their time, their talent, and their treasure that they never really thought they could.
Yeah. That's exciting. And man, we're just excited to be able to watch that story. I mean, it's fun that we get to see that unfold for you over the next 8 weeks here and watch what happens there, and then we'll see what this resource does for churches all across the country and really the world. So, Bryan, thanks so much for coming. And Extravagant, you're going to want to get yourself a copy of that. It's in the Influence store. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, and thank Influence Resources for taking on this vision.
All right, man.